Hello everyone, this is Shandell Morgan presenting on micro, local, and global education comparisons as part of CBU's Education 534, International and Comparative Education. For this comparison, I am going to focus on the educational aspect of modernizing curriculum, instruction, and assessment. I'm focusing on this because what students are learning in school and how they are learning it is paramount to the kind of citizens we are shaping, which drives our economic success on a global scale. As we saw in this week's TED Talk, human capital and education were China's biggest success factors on an economic scale. Harvey and Knight's analytical framework also points to this when we read their statement that the most consequential benefits for students, according to the transformation perspective, derive from the enhancement of their skills and from their empowerment through participation in self-evaluation and instructional evaluation as well. This includes allowing students to choose electives, design instruction, and create knowledge of relevance, a very modern approach if you ask me. On the micro level, I looked at Serrano High School, the school I currently teach at in Phelan, California. Currently, my school is focusing its attention on adapting the Common Core standards, using the Understanding by Design approach, and creating unit plans in our professional learning communities, making sure our students are prepared for the new Smarter Balanced assessment tasks that are in stark contrast to the typical multiple choice standardized tests, and also ensuring that we use technology in our classrooms. This all sounds great on paper, and while we are at least making an attempt at modernizing our curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices, we have a lot of things working against us. If you tried to find Phelan on a map or typed it into a Google search, it's hard to find and not a pretty picture according to most people's standards. We're a very rural community with a small population, so the amount of funding we receive per student is a lot lower than that of other schools in the area. We've also been able to pass a bond in our community that will allow for more funding in order to fund all of these modernization ideas. Less funding per student also means less funding for teacher salaries. So let's just say our staff can tend to be resistant towards change that requires more time and commitment. But our intentions are at least moving in the right direction. On the local level, I looked at California. California has formally adopted the Common Core state standards. The countries that are currently beating us in education share the characteristics of being science and technology based, resource challenged, globally interdependent, and innovation driven, all of which can be seen in our Common Core standards. Better assessment methods, an increase in the use of technology, and an emphasis on performance tasks do accompany the Common Core, and they are pushing California towards modernizing our curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Moving to the global level, I looked at Finland. Stewart cites Finland's broad and individualized curriculum as a major success factor for the country. They emphasize creativity, individual responsibility, and solving real-life problems in their curriculum. Their secondary school is structured more like college, and that gives more autonomy to students in choosing their path within their more globalized curriculum. As we have seen in many figures, Finland is clearly beating the United States, especially when we look at the Program for International Student Assessment scores, where the US doesn't even place in the top 10. So my question is, will the fairly recent modernizing attempts of the Common Core be enough to put us back in the running and place a little higher on these scales? My conclusions are mixed. We clearly are on the right track of placing higher on the PISA scale, but there's a lot of room for error in what we are doing. For one thing, Stewart does emphasize that you can't just apply one country's approach to another because context matters. This definitely applies when we compare ourselves to Finland, because not only are there many differences between the states within the US and Finland, but there are a lot of differences between our entire country and the country of Finland. Secondly, it takes a lot more than just creating plans to modernize curriculum, instruction, and assessment in order to reach the top. These pieces are important, but other countries boast more qualified teachers, high common standards with less variation between regions, more effective intervention to reduce the size of socioeconomic achievement gaps, and greater alignment between standards, curriculum, teacher training, and assessment. So on a basic level, it will take radical system-wide changes and a lot more time to see if our efforts are going to move us back to the top. The following are my references. And thank you for viewing my presentation.